Hey everybody, welcome to another actionfeatures.net toy review. So I was looking around the collection and trying to decide some quick reviews to throw up to break up the Ghostbusters reviews and the other kind of couch reviews type stuff we do, just to get up some quickie reviews. And I thought, hey, we haven't done any Mezco 112 stuff in a while, or any 112 scale stuff since like that black and white Batman. So I snagged this Judge Dredd down to take a look at Judge Dredd from Mezco in the 112 collective line. I figure we'll throw up a few of these 112th scale reviews, both the Mezco stuff and the new 3A stuff, since that's just starting to ship right now. And, alternate between ones I just do here by myself and ones we do at the couch. This one will be just by myself. And the one we're looking at today is the first release of Judge Dredd from Mezco in the 112th line, the black suit version with the yellow shoulders and the green knee pads. This is your basic standard Dredd. There were 4 releases of Dredd in all from Mezco. There's this one. There's a metallic blue one, which people call Disco Dredd, which was available both as a previews exclusive with the Lawmaster or by itself as the Cursed Earth version. There's a black and white version, which again is available by itself as a con exclusive or with the black and white Lawmaster as a con exclusive. And then last but not least is the navy blue version, which is a lot like this one, except it's a navy blue suit instead of black. And that was only available with the Lawmaster at New York Comic Con. So 4 Dredds in all, but this is your basic Dredd. Alright, so packaging. The Mezco 112 Collective, you can see my reflection in this thing a lot. The Mezco 112 Collective packaging is awesome in my opinion. It's super collector friendly. We've got this nice slip case with an image on here, this metallic gold and red. And then the back has images of the figure, accessories, all that stuff. And that just slides right off of there. And then underneath it, you've got just this plain blue box, and you won't get my reflection anymore. The plain blue is that way you can see all the imagery from the slipcase will show up against it, but it still has, the Judge Dredd logo and 112 Collective on the top. We've got the Judge Dredd symbol type thing on the side there, another image of the figure that's kind of faded. And all of these boxes are super collector friendly, so that all that, slipcase comes off. There's nothing taped, so you just open the box. Or you can just do this flap if you just want to check out the figure. And the flap on the inside has this nice foil gold Dredd badge, the Judge Dredd name logo again, and then a full view of the figure. All the Mezco 112 collective packaging kind of carries this same idea with the slipcase and the opening flap, a minimalistic design on the front with like just maybe a symbol or something. At least all the packaging I've seen. Some of the exclusive versions like black and white, they have smaller packaging without all the extra stuff going on, slipcases and such, but that's just because they're usually little run exclusives. Okay, so inside the packaging, I'm going to open this up here. Whoa. Sorry to be off camera for a second. So the box just opens up and you slide out this tray, and that tray has multi-layers to it. So the first one is on the figure and it's keeping all the figure and accessories in there, but then behind it is another layer. Kind of pulls off here. I'm going to back this up just a little bit so you guys can see everything. So this part pops off, and then underneath there you'll find the rest of the flight stand, jumping stand, whatever you want to call it, and this bag, which we talked about this on a previous Mezco 112 review. These bags are really awesome. It's just a cool thing to include with the figure. A lot of people, when they take their figures out, they don't know what to do with their accessories, or they just want to store their figures somewhere without the box. This little bag is perfect because you can fit either the figure in there or just all of his accessories. And then if you wanted to, you could probably write on that label which version it was. Cool little extra that's, probably doesn't cost them a lot to add in, but it is a cool thing that's given some, forethought to what collectors do with their figures. All right, so let's get him out of there and take a look at him. Okay, so here we have Dredd out of the box. All right, let's start with his accessories, and then we'll move on to the figure itself, do some comparisons to the previous Dredds, all that good stuff. Okay, so the Mezco 112 Collective line come with these circular bases, at least the figures that I have from the Mezco 112 have come with these circular bases. They're really nice. This one's molded in a gold plastic, and it's given this sort of a shiny sheen on the top. And then there's, of course, the Dredd badge logo on there. It's got a small peg that's already inserted when you get it, and that's for just a regular standing stand. You just plug the figure's foot right in there. It's just like any other figure stand that you've ever dealt with, where it's just the one little peg that your figure's foot pegs into. But what makes these cool is that they are adaptable to the flight stand / jumping stand thing. And you get this peg out just by going to the underside and using your flight stand clip to push that peg through, take it and then flip it back around, and plug your little jumping stand in here. Now for a character like Dredd, he's not really flying, so you don't really have as much use for this as you would for a character like, say, Superman or Space Ghost or something like that. But if you did want to have him in a jumping pose, it's nice that they'd included this. Now when it comes out of the box, this is a little bit on the loose side, but these are just little Phillips screws inside the stand, so you can just take a Phillips screwdriver and tighten this guy up if you wish. Alright, so let's plug this little thing back in here and set it off to the side before I lose it. And then we'll talk about all the weapons that Dredd comes with. Well, let's talk about the hands first. Just like Hot Toys, they come with a variety of accessories and interchangeable hands. The Mezco 112 stuff does. In the case of Dredd, he's got the two hands that he has on in the figure, which are these. One is a sort of open gripping hand, and the other one is a shooting hand, I guess. You also use this shooting hand with the day stick. So you put either the lawgiver or the day stick inside that hand. I'm sure the knife would also be something in that. So the right hand is really his gripping hand for holding all his different weapons. I wish that the selections for the left hand had an option for holding a weapon, so you could get the lawgiver and maybe the day stick going at the same time. But this hand as it is now is just too open. As far as the other hands that are included, we've got a right hand that's pointing, so he's, talking to a perp or something. And then we've got a left hand that is more of an open grip. And then we've got a right and a left that are fists. And all of these hands are really easy to switch out. You just pop them off of this stem here that's in the wrist. The stem stays inside the arm, which is something I hate on Hot Toys. When I go to switch them out and the peg pulls out and you've got to try and get the hand off of the peg. These are really well done. And this is kind of amazing that it's a smaller scale and it's actually handled better on these than it is on most of the Hot Toys I've dealt with. Like with a Hot Toy, I couldn't do this over the camera. There's no way I could switch it out like that. I'd be having to heat up the hand and get the peg in there and all that stuff. Okay, so that's the hands. And all the hands have a paint job on them. They've got this nice silver knuckle thing going on and a black wash. The hands are really detailed. We'll talk a little bit more about the details on the sculpt in a second here. As far as weaponry goes, he comes with two grenades, and these both have like a blackish silvery coloring to them, and they plug into the back of Dredd's belt. There's two empty little loops back here, and they just plug right into those. Next up is his day stick, nightclub, whatever you want to call this thing. It's called a day stick, but you call it what you want. And this is it's one solid piece with a little tiny silver indent in the middle, and you can just slide this into this little clip here on the belt, get it up to the point where that silver catches, and it'll hang from his belt really nicely. A big fan of stuff, I've said it 1,000 times on these reviews, big fan of figures that can carry all of their accessories on their person somewhere. And Dredd, for the most part, can do that. In fact, yeah, all of his accessories you can put somewhere on him. Next up is this little knife. It's got a black handle and a silver blade, and this just plugs right into his boot. And then on the other boot, you can plug in the lawgiver, which has a removable ammo clip, and it comes with a spare clip, so you get two clips with this gun, and one of those clips plugs right into this pouch in the back. The lawgiver itself just goes into his left boot, into this little holster along the side here. And it catches in there pretty well, doesn't feel like it's going to flop out upon movement or anything like that. This was the one accessory that he can't really carry on his person, and that's these nice handcuffs. They swing in the middle so they can be folded in on themselves, and then they open up, and they've got sort of an eagle motif going. These can, however, be stored on the Lawmaster bike. There's a little section in the back of the Lawmaster where these can sit inside of it. So that's cool that the one accessory that he can't carry on him can be stored on the bike. All right, let me put this little ammo clip in his belt here before I lose it. I'm a big fan of not losing things. Okay, all right, so Mezco 112 figures. Let's talk about his outfit and his articulation. The Mezco 112 Collective is, like I just said, sort of a mini Hot Toy, where you've got a mix of mediums between a cloth outfit and plastic gloves or hands little accoutrements here and there, but they've scaled it down to the 6-inch scale. I think it works really well on Dredd here, especially the sculpted elements. They're really well sculpted. There's a lot of detailing in the gloves. There's little tiny, like the symbol that's on the box, the little eagle shield. Those are sculpted into the glove, little packets with clasps here and there. The boots have a nice bit of cut to them, like little scraping and scratches here and there. There's even a eagle design at the bottom of the soles of these boots. So everything about the outfit, the sculpted elements are really, really well done. The material they use for the outfit is really nice as well. It's sort of this faux leather. It does have a lot of give to it, so you can get a lot of posing out of him. It's somewhat restricted in going crazy with the poses, but for the most part, it is a posable figure still, even with this faux leather outfit. Now, the one thing that is a kind of a drawback on this figure, being that faux leather, it's not like the Batman figure where the tights adhere to the muscle of the body. This faux leather is a bit thicker, so you don't get the same kind of skin-tight look that Dredd has in those comics. It's a bit thick, and the body itself, I don't know, this isn't classic Dredd. This is a Ben Wilshire design, who's more of a current 2000 AD Dredd artist. So his Dredd isn't sort of the skinnier look of Dredd that was in the earlier 2000 AD comics, which is my preferred look of Dredd, sort of the thinner Dredd. This has more of a more heroic build to the chest, but even then, since the outfit isn't skin tight, you don't get any kind of detailing though. It's kind of thick looking up top, and that's fine. It's not a fault of it's not a fault of the figure. It's just when you're working with that medium of this faux leather, it's not going to be skin tight. That's just how it is. And again, this is a design of Dredd that's from the comic. It's not maybe the design I prefer, but it is accurate to that artist's look of Dredd. The other drawback for this medium is zippers are really hard to do because zippers are zippers. There's nothing you can do about changing how a zipper works. So zippers and buttons, when you keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, you get to the point where a zipper is not going to be able to function if you get so tiny. And in the case of Dredd, to have this zipper function on his chest, it's got to be a little bit bigger than what a 1/12 scale zipper would really be. So the zipper is a bit on the large side. It's not terrible. It's not something that I would look at the figure and say, I wouldn't buy that for that. I'm just telling you slight little things that maybe I would say is a downside of the figure. Because overall, the figure is really great. Those sculpted elements, the articulation hidden by this outfit, the way they handled these shoulder pads is also really nice. They're magnetized. You just saw that a second ago. So that the articulation really isn't interfered with too much. And the way they attach to the figure is really nice. So they're not just glued onto the outfit. You feel like they're going to fall off at some point or tear. You get stray glue marks, all that stuff. The badge and both shoulder pads are magnetized. So you can take them off, put them back on, pose your figure. It's a really smart way of handling Dredd's outfit because these can be tough to do. I haven't really talked about the head sculpt either. The head sculpt on this is really nice. Again, same as with the boots and the gloves. There's a lot of little detailing to it in the sculpt, little scrapes and scratches, a little bit of silver here and there to show damage to the paint of his helmet where he's taken some shots from perps. The scowl on Dredd's face, the chin, very Dredd, very nicely done. There's a nice subtle stubble paint wash to the face. His eyes are even painted underneath the helmet, but as we all know, you don't take off Dredd's helmet. So that's a cool element that they put underneath there that they didn't really have to do. You can somewhat see through the lens a little bit. With Dredd's lens, it's almost like there's a black layer up top and then it goes down to a smoky layer beneath. And they've replicated that really well, which is awesome at this smaller scale that they pulled that off. He's also got the little silver glint in the eyes that look like the SS symbol. Just overall, a bang-up paint job on this figure. Any of the painted or the plastic or rubbery elements, like the belt is sort of a rubbery feel, and the I guess that's more the only thing on here that's rubbery is the belt feels rubbery. But even that has a nice silver paint app here and there, and the nice belt buckle paint app. All the paint is really, really clean, and it's a very, very nice paint job. As far as articulation goes, we've got the ankle joint isn't the best. It's got a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of side to side, but it's more this boot design that's keeping it from being a crazy, going all over the place ankle joint. And I'd much rather the boot design be close to the comic, where it's the big, bulky boot, than sacrifice the look for the articulation. Then he's got a swivel. The top of the boot swivels, and I think that might just be where the joint is at the ankle, and the boot itself is just a kind of a cuff thing that goes over it. But it does have movement there at the top of the boot. Then he's got a double knee joint, and that works really well, even with this giant knee pad here, because the knee pad is, I think it's part of the actual knee inside there. So you're not having it flop all over the place or interfere. It just takes the pose really well. I'm going to back this up just a bit so we can see the whole figure as I'm doing this. As far as the hip goes, there's a bit of a swivel at the top of the hip, and then the hips themselves can go up and out, kind of all over. It's almost like a semi-ball joint. I'm not sure how it is actually made because obviously the outfit covers it up. Then we've got a waist joint, and then a ball-jointed torso. It's got a good amount of movement. It's not going crazy, again, because the outfit's a little bit restrictive in that regard, not to the point where this is stuck being a statue. The shoulders can move both, they can go forward and back, a little bit of movement there, and then they pivot up and down and swing out. There's a swivel at the top of the bicep, a double-jointed elbow. We've talked about before with the glove here, how the hands peg into it, but the glove can rotate. The cuff can rotate around in case you want to have the pouches along the side or the pouches in the back. And then the wrist itself, where it plugs into the body, you've got a swivel there, and then there's a hinge, and then there's also a swivel. So there's two swivels. So you got the little ball joint in here that plugs into the wrist, so it swivels around, and then it hinges, and then it swivels again where it meets the glove. So you can get a lot of cool posing out of that, where he's doing a fist up or something like that. And then the neck has back and front movement because it's a double jointed neck where it goes into the body and then again inside the head. So you've got back and forth, and that can rotate all around, and then the head itself is molded on a ball on top of that. Very articulated figure, but it doesn't look like a robot thanks to this nice cloth outfit covering up almost all of these joints. Really awesome. That's one of the best things about the Mezco 112 Collective, for me, is that the look of the figure isn't being ruined by all the articulation. All right, let's take a look at Dredd next to some previous efforts on Judge Dredd. I have the original Reaction Judge Dredd here from, I think it was like 1999. I was so excited for this figure when it came out. I wanted a Dredd figure so bad. And this thing really fit the bill. And, some people dog this line, but I still like that figure. I think it's still great. And then we've got the later on Toy Biz effort. I think they were called Toy Biz at the time. From the Legendary Comic Heroes line. I think it was Build-A-Figure for Pitt. So you can see the scale is pretty close to each other. The Toy Biz is coming up the shortest of the three, but overall it's still in that 6-inch scale. Both these Dredds have the more bluish outfit, while this Mezco Dredd is obviously the black outfit. And like I said during the box part, there is a blue outfit Dredd. He's just kind of tougher to find. Okay, so that's it for all the stuff on Dredd. These figures, the Mezco 112 Collective figures, are $60 to $80 retail. That may sound like a lot, but when you're comparing these in quality to Hot Toys and all the stuff they come with and the craftsmanship that goes into them, you're talking like a fourth of the cost of a Hot Toy for half the size. And to me, that's pretty great. And up until this point, this is the highest in Dredd that we've gotten, in my opinion. Now we've got the 3A coming both in 1/12 and 1/6. So it'll be a matter of deciding which aesthetic of Dredd you like the best. But if you're into more the modern look of Dredd in the comics, IDW and the current Judge Dredd magazine and 2000 AD stuff, this is probably the Dredd for you. If you're into more of a classic look of Dredd, the 3A 1/12 scale Dredd might be the Dredd for you. We'll be taking a look at him too here at the channel, and we can have a comparison once he's arrived, so you can get a look at both of them. But if you're going to get the Mezco Lawmaster, this is the Dredd that you want to get for it. I don't believe that you should mix and match between the 3A look of Dredd and the Lawmaster from Mezco, or do the Mezco Dredd onto the 3A Lawmaster. They really are meant for each other, in my opinion. Overall, awesome figure though. This is probably my favorite Dredd of the 4 Mezco Dredds. It's either this one or the navy blue one, but this is the most classic Dredd you can get, single boxed. So if you're going to go after a Dredd, this is probably the one for you. if you're trying to be more conscientious with your dollars, then you may want to go after the Cursed Earth one. It's a bit cheaper. You could find it for 40 to 50, whereas you're still going to be paying in the 60 to 80 range for this one. If you want to check out the gallery of this figure, it'll be linked in the info section if you're watching this on YouTube. We'll also try and throw a link in there to be able to order him. But I guess that wraps it up on this one, so we'll see you guys next time.